Good morning, I'm KHOU11 meteorologist Chris Ramirez. Here is the latest update on Beryl. It is definitely going through the Caribbean, about to make landfall to the island of Jamaica. Kingston right there. They were dealing with the calm before the storm. They weren't dealing with any impacts earlier this morning, but now they are expecting to be impacted by a major hurricane. Category 4 strength. It's expected to make landfall this afternoon at 1 p.m. The storm is going to continue tracking across the Caribbean into the Yucatan Peninsula, eventually making landfall as a Category 2 hurricane by Friday morning. What's going to happen after it emerges on the other side of the Yucatan Peninsula is the million-dollar question, but the National Hurricane Center forecasting this to strengthen briefly into a Category 1 hurricane just prior to landfall in the North Mexican or South Texas coast. So we are expecting some impacts out of this as we head into the coming days. So something to really keep an eye on, especially for us here across Southeast Texas. So as we look at the latest model plots, the models are in agreement that this is going to be heading towards the Yucatan, eventually emerging and continuing its track off towards the northeast. But we're going to have to see the difference. Our major models, the GFS American model, of course, the GFS is showing this to make landfall near the Rio Grande Valley area near South Padre Island. However, as we look at the European model, it's important to note to not really pay attention to one particular model, because the European model actually takes this system a bit far south of the U.S.-Mexico border, just north of Tampico, somewhat of a similar track to Alberto. So something to really keep an eye on. So if this does move across the southwestern Gulf of Mexico, we are still going to see some impacts of that up and down the Texas coast in terms of high rip current risk, as well as some increasing rain chances. Also, the storm is expected to come in contact with some wind shear. And when we talk about wind shear, that usually is the cause of, you usually see some winds in the upper levels of the atmosphere. So when we have that wind speed in the upper levels of the atmosphere, that disrupts that wind flow from the storm. And as we look at the latest models, the hurricane, this latest model showing that shear all across the southern Gulf of Mexico as we head into the coming days, which is the reason why it's going to be weakening into a Category 2 storm just prior to landfall in the Yucatan Peninsula. Right now, definitely still strong. And also we're dealing with the steering current. We had this high pressure system that was over the south central U.S. across Texas, and we are going to now see that to retreat off towards the east. And that really is just going to open up the door for a landfall in the South Texas, North Mexico coast. That's the reason why we're seeing that take a more of a northern approach. But definitely there is still some disagreements on the models, but something we're going to have to keep an eye on as that storm emerges on the other side of the Yucatan in the coming days. So as we look at our 7-day forecast here across the Houston area, it's going to be mostly hot and humid, overnight lows in the 80s. So definitely practice those heat safety measures. This is not going to affect our 4th of July plans, but next weekend is when we're going to see this rain chance start creeping on in, especially from Monday into Tuesday. So Monday, Tuesday, likely to see some impacts from some tropical outer bands of Beryl as it makes its way into the southern Gulf as we head into Monday and Tuesday. So expect those rain chances to start increasing. And if you are headed to the coast this weekend, we're going to start seeing some high rip current risk. So be extra careful out there if you are out and about.